Fetterman is that rare Democrat who's not afraid to put the woke nonsense peddlers in his own party in their place, saying things like, wanting a secure border and realizing that it was out of control, that doesn't mean you're a xenophobe or a racist.
I am not woke. That's it. 4 simple words. But when Senator John Fetterman said them out loud, not behind closed doors, not in a leaked memo, but right into a microphone, it was like a political thunderclap.
Fetterman says the 4 words that strike fear in the heart of every Republican who wants to hang on to power. I am not woke. That's why Trump won. Not because Americans were clamoring for tariffs on margarita mix.
You could almost hear the collective gasp ripple through the Democratic Party. And the reaction? Pure chaos. Fetterman didn't just break from the script, he lit it on fire. In today's hyper-partisan world, where loyalty to the narrative often outweighs loyalty to the truth, what Fetterman did wasn't just unusual, it was revolutionary. And the fallout? Immediate. Outrage, confusion, accusations of betrayal. But then came a voice no one expected to back him up, Bill Maher. Maher didn't just defend Fetterman. He took aim at his own political tribe with the precision of a seasoned veteran. His words weren't just a critique, they were a reckoning.
Now, whenever a political party finds a real star president, the other side always says, well, we have to find our Bill Clinton, our Reagan, our Obama. Well, the Democrats need to find their Trump.
And what started as one senator's off-script comment spiraled into something much bigger, a cultural shift that's forcing everyone to pick a side. But what pushed this moment to the boiling point? What triggered this firestorm that now has both sides scrambling to regain control?
Not the authoritarian part, but the part where a politician bonds with everyday Americans because he talks like them.
Let's rewind. John Fetterman has never been the kind of politician who blends in. From his working-class style to his straight-talk delivery, he's always been a bit of an outlier in the polished world of Capitol Hill. But this time, he didn't just stand out, he stepped on a live wire. Fetterman publicly criticized what he sees as the extremes of the far left. He didn't name names, but he didn't have to. His message was clear. The Democratic Party is losing touch with everyday Americans. And one of the biggest issues? The border. He said the quiet part out loud, that wanting a secure border doesn't make someone xenophobic or racist. It's just common sense.
The good news for Democrats is they have that guy, and his name is John Fetterman.
In a party where such statements are often seen as taboo, his bluntness came across like a thunderclap. And just like that, the backlash began. Party insiders and progressive activists turned on him with alarming speed. He wasn't siding with Republicans. He wasn't switching teams. But to the hardcore ideologues, it didn't matter. He'd crossed a line. One moment, he was a quirky outlier. The next, he was public enemy number 1. But the storm was only getting started. Because then came the dinner. It wasn't a rally. It wasn't a speech. There were no cameras, no press briefings, just a quiet dinner at Mar-a-Lago. After the election, John Fetterman sat down with Donald Trump. And that single act flipped the script on everything. There was no endorsement, no backroom deal, just a conversation over dinner. But in the hypercharged world of political optics, nuance doesn't matter. A handshake became heresy. A meal turned into a moment of betrayal.
And afterwards, Trump said, he's not liberal or conservative. He's just a common sense person, which is beautiful. And that's the kind of gay adjacent respect Trump usually reserves for Putin.
The Democratic outrage machine roared to life almost instantly. Headlines screamed. Social media exploded. Activists demanded explanations. The message was loud and clear. In today's political climate, crossing the aisle, even for dinner, is unforgivable. But while everyone else was losing their minds over optics, Bill Maher stepped in with clarity. And what he said next changed everything. When Bill Maher took the stage, he didn't hesitate. No hedging, no disclaimers. He dove straight into the controversy and pulled no punches.
Trump and Fetterman actually have a lot in common. They're both plain-spoken anti-elitists who come from money, married exotic immigrant ladies, went to Ivy League schools, and aren't afraid to take on their own party.
He torched the Democrats for turning on one of their own, not because Fetterman had betrayed the party, but because he dared to act like a human being. Maher called out what few on the left are willing to admit, that their obsession with ideological purity is destroying their ability to connect with real people. And then came the comparison that stopped everyone cold. Fetterman, he said, is the Democrats' answer to Donald Trump. It sounded like blasphemy, but Maher wasn't joking. He laid it all out. Fetterman, like Trump, speaks plainly. He's unpolished, direct, and unapologetically himself. He doesn't bow to party orthodoxy. He doesn't chase headlines. He just says what he thinks. Maher didn't just defend Fetterman. He elevated him. And that was the moment the conversation changed. Because if Fetterman really is the left's version of Trump, what does that say about the future of both parties? And more importantly, what does it mean for everyone else?
Look, here's the thing. Voters aren't really savvy about the issues, but they do have made it clear what is important to them. Authenticity, balls, and charisma. Trump has that package, and so does Fetterman.
At first glance, John Fetterman and Donald Trump couldn't be more different. One's a billionaire real estate mogul. The other's a tattooed, hoodie-wearing former mayor. But Maher argued that on a deeper level, they're strikingly similar.
But you see, again, like Trump, Fetterman understands the value of having a distinctive look, a brand. Trump...
And that similarity could reshape the political landscape. Both men reject the polish and performance of traditional politics. They speak in plain language. They say what they mean. And whether you agree or not, you know where they stand. For Trump, his brand was larger than life. The suit, the tie, the hair, the bravado. He became a walking meme. For Fetterman, it's the opposite. Understated, working class, grounded. But both crafted an image that feels authentic to their base. Maher put it this way. Trump is the fast food franchise. Fetterman is the guy who eats there after a shift at the steel mill.
Trump, with his yellow top and 4-foot rayon red tie, mimics the colors that every fast food franchise...
Both appeal to voters who are tired of plastic politicians and pre-approved talking points. And that's what makes Fetterman dangerous. Not to Republicans, but to his own party. Because if he continues to rise, where does that leave the establishment figures who've been groomed for decades to take the spotlight? Where does that leave someone like Kamala Harris? In today's political arena, branding isn't just a marketing term, it's survival. And this is where Kamala Harris faces a serious problem. She's polished, articulate, and strategically positioned, but also, paradoxically, forgettable. Ask the average American what Kamala Harris stands for, what makes her different, memorable, or relatable, and you'll likely get a blank stare. There's no defining image, no iconic moment, no clear voice that cuts through the noise. She's been vice president for years, and yet somehow, she still feels like a placeholder, not a presence. Now contrast that with John Fetterman. You don't need a campaign ad to recognize him. Hoodies, cargo shorts, neck tattoos, Fetterman shows up like no other politician on the national stage. He doesn't talk like them, look like them, or act like them. And that's exactly why he connects with voters, especially those outside the coastal bubbles. He's meme-worthy without trying, relatable without pretending, authentic without polish. Where Harris seems meticulously crafted by consultants, Fetterman seems like someone you might actually know, or even be, in a time when elite is a political slur.
I don't just have the top of the next Democratic ticket. I'm also going to throw in the best bottom the Democrats have, Pete Buttigieg.
And voters are craving something real. Fetterman's authenticity beats Harris's polish every time, and that's the quiet panic creeping through the Democratic ranks. If 2028 comes down to authenticity, Kamala's carefully crafted image may not stand a chance. But here's the twist. This isn't just about Fetterman anymore. Another unexpected figure just made a subtle move, and it could signal a bigger shift. Pete Buttigieg is quietly leaving the woke stage. It was easy to miss if you weren't looking for it, but for those paying attention, it spoke volumes. Not long ago, Pete Buttigieg, the face of millennial progressivism, quietly removed his personal pronouns from his social media bios.
And he too seems to be trying to send a message that he wants to join the reality wing of the Democratic Party. A month ago, he stopped posting his pronouns.
No statement, no announcement, just gone. On the surface, it's a small change, but symbolically, it's a crack in the foundation. For years, pronouns in bios were more than a gesture. They were a declaration of allegiance to a cultural movement, one that emphasized inclusion, identity, and language as a form of activism. Buttigieg was once seen as a poster child of that movement. So why remove them now? Bill Maher had an answer: survival. In Maher's eyes, this wasn't about rejecting progress or identity. It was about waking up to political reality. The woke signaling that once energized a base is now alienating swing voters. The culture war has shifted. The battlefield isn't Twitter anymore. It's real life. Working-class Americans, parents, union workers, the ones who still care more about paychecks than pronouns. By stepping away, even quietly,
Liberals would do better, quote, if we were more serious about the actual values and not caught up in vocabularies and trying to cater to everybody only in terms of their particular slice of combinations of identities.
Buttigieg signaled something bigger. The center of gravity in Democratic politics is starting to shift. The party's rising stars are beginning to realize that performative progressivism may not be the winning strategy they once thought. And Maher didn't celebrate this moment with sarcasm. He treated it as a rare flash of honesty, a small but meaningful retreat from political theater, a crack in the mask. But that wasn't Maher's final message. The real shock came next, and it wasn't a punchline. It was a warning. Bill Maher didn't deliver his final message with rage or mockery. He delivered it with urgency. He warned that the Democratic Party, the party he's supported for decades, is driving itself toward political irrelevance. And it's not because they've changed too little. It's because they've changed too much in the wrong direction.
Fetterman's problem is he doesn't check any box for gender or race, which could hurt him in getting the nomination. John, are you sure you don't have any Latino blood? How does Juan Fetterman sound?
Maher pointed to the party's obsession with purity, not in principles, but in performance. The endless vocabulary tests, the constant shifting of ideological goalposts, the cancel culture that eats its own, all of it, he argued, is pushing away the very people Democrats used to represent. That the left's growing obsession with ideological optics is alienating the majority of the country. Fetterman, in Maher's eyes, isn't the perfect candidate. But he is a signal, a chance, a glimpse of what the party could become again if it stopped chasing applause and started listening to real people. The question Maher leaves hanging in the air is brutal but clear. Will the Democratic Party wake up in time to save itself? Or will it keep marching toward the cliff, smiling, tweeting, and hashtagging all the way down? As the dust settles on Bill Maher's monologue, one truth becomes impossible to ignore. He isn't attacking the left because he wants to destroy it. He's attacking it because he wants to save it. Maher, a lifelong liberal, has become a reluctant prophet for a movement that no longer recognizes him. His criticism isn't coming from the outside. It's coming from inside the house, and that's why it stings so much. What he's doing is holding up a mirror, not to humiliate Bob, but to reveal. He's showing Democrats what they've become, a party so consumed by performance that it's lost its ability to persuade, a party so focused on identity that it's forgotten about individuals, a party so afraid of being called out by its base that it's abandoned the rest of the country. And the tragedy? They're not looking at the reflection. They're attacking the mirror. They see Maher as the problem instead of the warning sign. As 2028 approaches and the political stakes rise, voices like Maher's might be the last chance for the party to recalibrate before it's too late. And whether or not you agree with everything he says, one thing is crystal clear. He's not shouting for clicks. He's not ranting for ratings. He's begging them to listen. Because once the crash comes, there won't be time for reflection. All right, guys, don't just watch politics happen. Understand it. Hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell to never miss an explosive update.